about my language identity and power, and how my experiences growing up have largely influenced how I perceive education, my career path, and my language. So first of all, I just want to talk about a little bit about my family. So I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. Both my parents are immigrants from Mexico. My mom is from Guasave, Sinaloa, and my dad is from Tepozan, Morelos. And they both married here. They met and married here, and then they had my two older brothers were about 9 and 8 years apart, and then my younger brother, who is 4 years apart from me. So that age dynamic had a large influence on me growing up, because I felt like I had two parents who were both my parents, of course, and then my older brothers who are to this day still like four parents. Okay, and then at home we only spoke Spanish, and then anywhere outside we usually spoke English. But with our parents, since they aren't very fluent in English, we speak to them in Spanish, and that led to a lot of translanguaging, in the sense that we only spoke to our parents in Spanish at home, and we only spoke English outside, which sometimes would lead us to have to translate, to have to communicate with teachers, be the peacemakers between teachers. And sometimes that was a struggle, in the sense that we never were represented by someone else, because we had to represent ourselves and our family when it came to anything education. So, of course, school was always number one, and then um, because it was always number one, we always focused on good grades, listening to teachers and everything. But it always sometimes led to complications, because the school system back in the day was very against Spanish, bilingualism, Proposition 203, which was against bilingual education, which was passed in 2010, I want to say. And then laws like SB 1070, which allowed police officers to pull you over because of being perceived as an immigrant. These were very influential propositions and laws in my life, because growing up, they invoked fear in me, they invoked fear in my family, friends, and throughout the community. And I think that's one of the largest things to remember, is sometimes these laws are affecting our students in very large ways, and we need to know that when they come into the classroom, they are affected by them, and that we cannot just tell them to leave it outside the door and leave the drama at the door. So that's one of the big things that I really want to bring into the classroom. Okay. Growing up, my life was very much between three places here: Phoenix in Arizona, Guasave, Sinaloa, and then Tepoztlán, where my mom and dad were from. And we traveled between the three places during holiday, during any time we had off. Um, so we didn't really follow very traditional holidays, in the sense. We followed more Mexican holidays, because anytime we did have free, we would leave the country and we'd go visit our family and just feel free where we were going to. And then growing up, I went to Mountain View Elementary School and Sunnyslope High School, which my brothers actually attended. So we've all been to the same elementary school, middle school, high school, and actually the same college. And one of the big things I want to talk about is in high school is when I was able to connect again with Spanish and be able to embrace the language and feel celebrated because of it, because I joined honor Spanish, and through my teachers, I was able to grow my language in such a large way, and was able to start becoming a part of the community outside of my family and outside of the community my parents made, but more outside of people who were my age, who were also fighting for bilingual rights in the classroom and for around me. So of course we all face discrimination. One of the big things that I faced was having to hide my dialect, having to not speak Spanglish or translanguaging, and feeling like I had to switch to a certain way of speaking to be accepted in society. And that led to a lot of people with me growing up feeling that they couldn't speak Spanish in the classroom, that they couldn't be a certain way outside the classroom, because sometimes we did have those like very mean people who didn't like us in certain areas, and that was very hurtful growing up, because it felt like everything that I did would affect my parents such in a large way that I felt fearful to do most things sometimes. And then we already spoke about translanguaging and how switching between it due to societal norms, like school is for English and home is for Spanish, which I'm grateful for in high school, being able to break that and being able to understand that the way I communicate does not have to be limited about where I am. And then language. So, like I said, I speak Spanish and English. And growing up, I was in the ESL program. So I was thought about being unproficient in English, but the problem was that it's because I wasn't able to have my parents always help me on English homework or help me with certain aspects of my homework. I relied a lot heavily on my brothers who would translate homework for me, would help me with homework, but the school deemed me limited in my English, so I was in ESL for a really long time. And then one of my teachers she decided that I deserved to be in a different classroom, and she just put me into advanced English out of nowhere, and I flourished in such a big way. And I actually became one of the top students in high school because of that. And it was great to see how one teacher literally changed my life. And then another part was Head Start and preschool. I was a part of a bilingual program for very short. It was very hush hush because it was a nonprofit. And the teacher actually that I had, her name was Professora Gani, and she just passed. But she was someone so influential in my community. Everyone knew her because everyone had their child go to that same type of program. But that was one of the very early times that I was able to experience having an actual person who represented me in the classroom being in such a big role. And then it's very sad to think that that was one of the only times that I was able to do that, and how I wasn't able to keep growing with that as I progressed in my career academically. Okay, growth. Okay. Of course, because of volunteering, internship, and experiences I've been able to grow not in just translation and bilingualism in my life, but I've also felt like I'm more confident in being bilingual, of being able to speak in my dialect around others, and both speaking, writing, talking, communicating with others. And it's so exciting to see how far I've grown from being able to do public speaking in Spanish and English, from being able to just talk to older individuals in both languages, and also being able to teach in Spanish and English in either or, because it's so amazing to see yourself like utilize this part of you that sometimes felt like it was a very hush hush thing. So that's amazing to see, and I hope to keep building on this and being able to come to a point where I feel like I'm very strong in both Spanish and English. And then lastly, the educator I want to be. So there's three things that I really, really felt that I connected with and wish that I had when I grew up. When I was growing up in the classroom, one of them being the strong emotional connection with students, with parents, with children. I remember growing up and it was very much teacher here, parents here, homework here, right? But no, I wanted to be more about me connecting with those around students, around their education. It's not always mom and dad who are there for them. Sometimes it is parents who are not in the picture. So one of the biggest things is I want to make sure that my students have someone in their life they can communicate, that being me, and I'm able to communicate with the person who does see them the majority of the time and who supports them the majority of the time. And I know that that's one of the biggest things that students sometimes don't feel like they can say, like sometimes a brother, sister, or sibling takes care of them. So that's one of the big things I want to do. Also abolitionism, teaching in the sense that the practice of pursuing educational freedom for all students, being able to bring in all aspects of cultures into the classroom, not having to feel that I've only teach about one form of education, but more than one. And also bringing in students' cultures. It's amazing that when I was able to do that, how much I flourished and I grew. And then lastly, real life skills, showing students that what they learn in the classroom leads them to success outside the classroom. And sometimes students feel like they learn something and they don't need to learn it, it's unnecessary. And this would allow them to strengthen and see what they want to pursue in education